Election Day is still more than 2 months away, but voters in dozens of states won't have to wait for November to cast a ballot. 36 states plus the District of Columbia allow voters to cast early ballots by mail without providing an excuse. And in 47 states plus D.C., voters have the option to vote early either by mail or in person. Joining us with a look at our election system is David Becker. He's a former civil rights attorney at the Department of Justice who now leads the Center of Election Innovation and Research. He's also a contributor here at CBS. David, it is so good to see you. It is Labor Day weekend, so it's the traditional kickoff of the election season. Amazing to think that voters in North Carolina are going to start getting their mail-in ballots as soon as this week. Give us a lay of the land. Is it going to be easier or harder for voters to cast their ballots in 2024 than it was in 2020?
Well, there's a lot of political rhetoric out there about overemphasizing fraud or overemphasizing voter suppression, and there have been some bad laws passed in some states. For instance, those voters in North Carolina will now have to provide some additional identification when they vote by mail. But overall, if we look at the history of the United States, it is easier to vote than ever before in American history. And 99.9% of voters, when they go to try to vote, they're going to find it's an easy, convenient experience. If they choose to vote in person, they're going to be around their neighbors and members of their community. They're going to wait in line less than 30 minutes. That's the normal voting experience in the United States. It is easier to register to vote than ever before. More voters have access to online voter registration now, 40 states or more. More voters are automatically registered at the Motor Vehicles Agency, things like that. And then you can check your registration easier than ever before online, right there on the state's website in almost every state. And same with voting. As you showed, early voting is available in almost every single state. Mail voting without an excuse is available in the vast majority of states. So voters are going to have a choice and be able to vote very conveniently.
What should people know about registering to vote if they haven't gotten around to it yet?
So there's still plenty of time. That's the good news. Every single state allows registration to vote for November up to 30 days before the election. So you'll have until early October to register. If you haven't registered yet, do it today. It's a great time. Go online. Go to vote.gov. That's a great site to find information from your state. What you'll do is there's a drawdown menu there, and you put in your state, and you'll find out information, and it'll take you to the official state source, which is the place you should always go to check your registration or register to vote. Some states allow registration through October and even on Election Day itself. But every single state, every single eligible voter in the United States can register to vote up until early October.
David, you've been really proactive. I see you online, pushing back when you encounter really serious election misinformation, particularly when it comes from someone like Elon Musk, who owns a social media platform and has been pushing some really inflammatory claims when it comes to voting.
Yeah, there are very powerful forces that want us as Americans who live in our democratic society to doubt that democratic society, to doubt our elections that decide our leaders, and to hate our neighbors, to think of our neighbors as enemies if they happen to disagree with us politically. And the fact is that our elections are as secure as they've ever been. We have more paper ballots now than ever before. Those paper ballots are auditable and recountable, and we do audit them to make sure that the machines counted them accurately. We have more accurate voter lists than ever before, thanks to better technology and data that allows states to share data between states and within a state to make sure that we keep up with people as they move so that we have the right address for them. We have more pre-election litigation than ever before. Some people think that's a bad thing. I happen to think it's a good thing. It clarifies those rules. When we get to Election Day, both sides, all the candidates know those rules. Those are the rules we're playing under. You might not like them, but those are the rules, and you can't complain about them once Election Day comes. And then we have had more post-election litigation that has confirmed and verified the results than ever before. We sit here 46 months after the last presidential election right now, an election that has withstood more scrutiny than any election in world history. More scrutiny than any election in world history. And there is still not a single shred of evidence that's been presented to any court. It's been presented on social media. It's easy to put anything up on social media. But to present it to a court, subject it to scrutiny and cross-examination, have a judge hear it and rule, there has not been a single shred of evidence presented in any court in the country.
But are we seeing even more misinformation this election season than we've seen in the past, and where's it coming from?
Yeah, we're seeing more election disinformation for sure. It's coming from Donald Trump. It's coming from Elon Musk. It's coming from, we know, foreign adversaries like Russia and Iran and North Korea and China, who are heavily invested in not only perhaps electing a particular candidate, but in also all of them are heavily invested in getting us to doubt that the accurate candidate was elected, to doubt that our democracy and our elections are working. And so when you see information on social media in particular that triggers something within you, that seems to make you angry about the other side, all of us as sophisticated media consumers should pause and say, maybe that anger is the product they're trying to create. Maybe they're getting paid or they're benefiting from creating that anger in us. And instead go to the trusted sources, our election officials, Republicans, Democrats, all across the country. There are hundreds of thousands of them. Our election is going to be run by them, these professionals, and we're going to rely upon about 1 million volunteers, people in our communities and our neighborhoods who are going to volunteer their time for a long day on election day to make sure that our elections are accurate. And if anyone has any doubts about the system, volunteer to join them. Volunteer to be a poll worker. Go onto your local county or local election site. It's usually very easy to volunteer. They're looking for people. And you'll see firsthand all of the checks and balances and redundancies that prevent widespread fraud.
Great advice. David Becker, election law expert for CBS News. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.